Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, wherever you're listening. It's the Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. We got the tripod here today. Bet Online brought to Detroit podcast brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to betonline.ag. Get all the up-to-minute odds, sports, updates, anything you need to make a little bit of extra cash for your Thanksgiving dinner, or if you need to make some quick cash for your kids' Halloween costumes, betonline.ag is where to go. Bet Online, where the game starts. Don't forget, Detroit is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy or Underdog Fantasy app. Put in promo code USCLAFB and get up to $100 match for the ultimate fantasy. Pick 2 to 6 people. Bet if they're going to go over, under, any sport. They even have F1 on there. So Underdog Fantasy, Ultimate Fantasy. We have another before I get into that, I apologize, you guys. How are you guys doing? Madman, how are you doing?
Doing well, guys. Great to see you as always. It's 3 of us. It feels like it's been a few sessions since it was the 3 of us. So always a great ride to see you, and the 3 of us, the band is back together.
Hey, Ryan, we were close to having him. The Madman was close to a beard. He had pretty good growth going for a little bit.
It was.
Saturday, he had pretty good growth.
I flirted with it, but good to see you. I know, because we did the preview last week, and then I wasn't on the live or the Monday recap, so good to see you guys again. How's the week going?
Good. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good. A little tired. I was real sick yesterday out of nowhere. Sickest I felt in a while, so feeling a little better today, getting over it, but also just sick of this heat. But other than that, I'm good. Life is good.
I got you.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Just fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Your beard and line looks good, so just get a nice trim.
Yeah. You know, I go to this place called My Bathroom and use the mirror on my clippers, and they take care of me pretty good.
Yeah, I need to do. That's why I'm wearing a hat. I'm getting the cul-de-sac. It's getting too long.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, definitely. Hey, so let's jump into this thing. We have another pageantry game. We have another blue blood. I real quick. I'm going to go on topic real quick. So, you know, me and my brother always argue this USC Oregon thing. And I think I finally got him to stop. And so I told him, Oregon's not even a blue blood. Because I hit him with the Dallas Cowboys of college football. I was like, they get you there and then they just disappoint you. And I was like, and then Oregon's not even a blue blood. And he was like, yes, we are. He finally looked it up and he saw that they're not even a blue blood. I was like, thank you. Come again. You're not on our levels. I was like, there's levels to this. Then he tried to, well, how is SC there? Blah, blah, blah. Because there's levels to this, bro. Neither here nor there. The pageantry is here. The Coliseum will host his first historic Big Ten matchup, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Ooh,
I think
shots fired at Wisconsin. I love it. You know,
Wisconsin.
I got you, Coach.
Penn State. I mean, I don't care about shots. Wisconsin is not Penn State. Wisconsin's not Ohio State. Wisconsin's not Michigan. Like, Jamal, just like I told Kenny, there's levels to this shit.
There's
man.
levels, Coach.
So Wisconsin's Oregon is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get me in trouble because lower.
Oh, you said. I think you said on our preview. You said they were like Arizona, right? Or you said Minnesota is.
Minnesota's like Arizona State and Oregon State. I mean, anybody can argue that, but it's a factual thing. Even though they're gonna say, "Well, they beat you," blah blah blah. Reality, they're like Arizona State, Oregon State. Wisconsin's like, I guess, like
Washington.
Yeah, let's say Washington. There you go.
I like how we're just going to compare every Big Ten and Pac-12.
Yeah,
there you go.
It doesn't even need to happen anymore.
This one is kind of like. This one, I guess you could say, is kind of like early UCLA, late 90s UCLA, early 2000s UCLA, like 10-win seasons, very competitive, but just not enough, if that makes sense. You agree, Jamal? You know what era I'm talking about?
I mean, that's not bad, Coach. Not bad, you know? I mean, look, if you're going to make that comparison, we got a problem on Saturday because, you know, late 90s UCLA was 8 straight over SC. So if you're going to make that comparison, that's a bit of a loaded statement.
Well, all right. My era UCLA. Let's say my area.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2000s. This is Coach Rowe moonwalking like Michael Jackson now.
Well, I didn't mean to sound false here, but I meant like 10-win team, very competitive. Like they earn their keep, they're worth it. You know what I mean? Like this is going to be a competitive
every year.
Contender every year. Yeah. this is going to be a competitive team that's going to walk into the Coliseum and they're going to try to withstand their top 5 ranking, right? Compared to USC, chip on their shoulder, has a whole lot to prove now. Like, we're back at the point like, oh no, here we go again. And here we go again, right? SC has to win out to be a playoff contender, right? SC has to win out to prove that to everyone that this first game wasn't a fluke, that they deserve to be in the number 11 team at one point, everything that needs to be done. I think holistically, all together, they just need to come out and play football. And I haven't talked about this at all this year, and we're 6 games in. But one thing we have not seen from them is a complete game, right? If we talk about horse racing, if they have a bad race, they throw a race out. We're going to throw the Utah game out. I was going to say Utah race. We're going to throw the Utah game out, right?
Utah State. We're
going to throw the Utah State game out. They have yet to play a complete game. They have yet to dominate in all 3 phases of the football game. They have yet to dominate on special teams, offense, and defense together in one whole game. We just need a complete game. Let's see what this team looks like playing a complete game. And I think this is the perfect week to see a complete game and be like, all right, they are legit, but how often can we get it? We could talk about the consistency once we get it, but we're 6 weeks in and we have yet to see a complete game. Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously that's best case scenario. And I think if they get a perfect game, they're a real competitive team. Like, I think they can really stack up against everyone in their schedule. For me, it's like, can we just see a game without self-inflicted wounds? Like, if they can play a game without, bad turnovers, bad penalties at critical times, and bad field position changes and stuff like that, gash plays in the running game, like that's more what I'm looking for, because to stay competitive, you look at all these, specifically the 2 games they lost. If you really dial it down, it's to the self-inflicted wounds, the turnovers at key moments. And so if they can go and play in this game and just not even have to dominate all 4 quarters, dominate every level, obviously that's what we want. But if they can just not have those inflicted wounds and give themselves a chance to win, then that to me is progress. Because it's mainly the defense has definitely had their moments of lapses, but to me it's more this offense that, I mean, I wasn't on the show with you guys against Minnesota, but I mean, they moved the ball. They only had 9 possessions. They moved the ball in those 9 possessions, but it's the fumble and the 2 interceptions and the missed field goal. I mean, that's 4 possessions wasted right there. You have 5 to put up points. You're not going to win many football games like that, regardless of who you play. So to me, it comes down to self-inflicted wounds, cutting all that out.
All right, man, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Ryan brings up a really good point. To me, it's all about second half resilience. This is going to be a game that's going to be a drag it out 60-minute ball game. I think that, and we'll get into it, this is going to be a teeth grinder for 60 minutes. I think Penn State's got to fly all the way across the country. I think there's some key questions about Penn State. Are they a little bit high at 4? I think they are a little high at 4, given what they've kind of demonstrated on the field. And then you got an SC team that's absolutely desperate with backs against the wall from a college football playoff perspective. So this is going to be a game that not only, in my opinion, is going to go into the second half, but it's going to come down to a couple of plays at the end. And so does SC have that resilience and that fortitude to be able to execute down the stretch and finish games? I think to Ryan's point, mistakes have been there all throughout the season. But mistakes also, guys, are a function of exhaustion. When you're tired, you're more susceptible to mistakes. When you're wearing down, you're more susceptible to mistakes. And so, again, what we saw against Michigan, against Minnesota, was a team that essentially wore down, particularly on that defensive side, and ultimately folded. And that's why even in the games that SC was able to win, having that cushion at different points in the game, allowing to create some separation with Wisconsin very early in that third quarter to kind of get the game back on their schedule, back on their flow, was really critical, and not having that be a slug it out game going into the fourth quarter. So to me, it's about, can they sustain into the second half and really sort of show that resilience? Because Penn State is going to be a team that's going to do very similar things to Michigan and Minnesota, but they have other elements to their offense that takes them to kind of that next level offensively. So not only is SC going to have to be ready for the power, they're also going to have to be ready for the things that are happening sort of out wide. So can they sustain and have that resilience for 60 minutes?
Let's jump into Penn State. So a lot of people are high on this. What's his name? Avondale, the quarterback.
Drew Aller?
Adler, yeah. A lot of people,
Avondale, where'd you get
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that's.
I don't know. I'm just number 15. A lot of people are high on 15. So watching him, I don't know if he's Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne. So what we see is not really what's happening, but he's not that great to me. You know what I mean? Like, he's just seems like an average quarterback. And then what they have on the edge, I know they try to use it, but their play calling is not super exotic. It's not super complicated. They hitting guys on post and he's squeezing it in there, which the game I watched was a UCLA game, and I thought some of them should have been picked off. A little bit of effort. We got to talk to Thrilled Madman about the effort on the defense on UCLA, man. They got to jump for the ball. Anyway, shout out to Thrill. No, but just they don't jump off the screen, if that makes, like, there's me watching Penn State is like, all right, we actually do have a chance. And that's why I talked about the complete game. There's nobody that really is like, we got to worry about this guy. We got to worry about this guy. We got to worry about this guy. I will tell you this. Their left tackle is kind of cement-footed and isn't that great. He gave up a sack last week. He just got beat. So this is a big game for Lucas. Lucas could earn a lot of money this game. I don't think the left tackle is number 68. I don't think he's great. And, I mean, he may be a mauler and this and that, but if they have to pass and you get him in that one-on-one and they don't slide to help him out, we could see some sacks. This is the perfect game for Coach Lynn to start disguising stuff and to confuse 68 so you could set him up with the one-on-ones to get sacks. But other than that, Penn State doesn't jump off the screen. You're right, Jamal. They don't seem like a number 4 team to me, but they may be better when you play them. They may be like that annoying team. Like, they're better when you play them than what it really looks like. What do you got, man? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, I think from a complete team perspective, I think, 4 seems a little bit high. Now, having said that, I think the strength of this team unquestionably is the pass rush. I think this is one of, if not the best pass rush in the country, Coach, one of the 5 best pass rushes in the country. And it really starts on the edge with those two-headed monsters. It's Abdul Carter, who he's kind of a hybrid linebacker / edge. They're now playing him much more at edge. Unbelievable freak athlete. And then Danny Dennis Sutton on the other side. Those are their kind of two-headed monsters. Those guys have played a total of probably 3 games total in terms of number of plays, given Penn State's had a number of blowouts, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles in basically 3 games played. And so, to me, this game ultimately comes down to 3 matchups. And the team that can win 2 out of the 3 matchups is probably going to win this game. And the first matchup for me is Abdul Carter and Danny Dennis Sutton against Elijah Paige and Mason Murphy. And obviously that's going to be a tall order with where we are at the tackle position right now. But even if Murphy and Paige can somewhat, be in contention, somewhat sort of get some of their own, lose that battle, but lose it moderately, and if Lincoln can kind of help, Coach, like we talked about earlier this week with some 12 personnel, if we can get Lake McCree back, that would be great. We got the Eldridge, the other tight ends. If you can help with sort of the chipping and sort of overloading on each side, how do you try and at least neutralize that pass rush? That's going to be matchup number 1. That's absolutely critical. Number 2, I think is a very unique one, and I hope we get it. I don't think we will, and I think that's a shame for college football, but I think Tyler Warren versus Eric Gentry would have been one of the best individual matchups in college football this year. When you think about Tyler Warren of Penn State, this is kind of their Taysom Hill. This is sort of if Tebow played tight end at Florida. He's sort of their Swiss Army knife. I mean, he's technically a tight end, leads them in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. 23 catches, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's had 4 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. He's even thrown a 17-yard touchdown pass. They line him up everywhere. Out wide, tight end, in the backfield, wildcat. They'll even throw the ball with him. And so who is going to match up with Tyler Warren? To me, the obvious choice there is Gentry, just given his unique 6'6" frame, his athleticism, and his motor. Obviously, Gentry's injury concerns this week, I think, are getting more and more heightened. So you're probably looking at a Mascarenas Arnold as the guy that's going to have to cover Tyler Warren. Can Mascarenas Arnold affect Warren enough? Because they just do so many things with him and then off of him. And then finally, the third matchup, I think, is the matchup of the two unknowns, if you will. And I think, Ryan, you sort of alluded to this. It's the USC secondary against the Penn State receivers, both of whom have been pretty – they've been – the utilization of each room has been pretty lacking. You know, when you look at SC, the secondary hasn't really had to play a full 60-minute game since LSU. I mean, look back at Utah State. Barnes was much more sort of run-heavy. All these other teams have been predominantly run-heavy. That secondary has not been tested. On the flip side, you have Penn State from wide receiver perspective, Omari Evans and Harrison Wallace III, two very talented guys on the outside, a lot of speed, a lot of ability, but they haven't really put it all together week over week. There hasn't been a wide receiver one emerge for Penn State, and that ultimately is the big question about whether this team is warranted to be a top 5 team and a true contender in the Big Ten, because they're going to need an outside weapon to emerge. So to me, it's this USC secondary. You know, we obviously some injury questions with the likes of Covington and others, but Jaylin Smith and Greedy Vance Jr. and Kamari Ramsey kind of helping and shadowing against this wide receiver group of Penn State. Who's going to match up with Tyler Warren? In an ideal world, it would have been Gentry. It's probably going to be Mascarenas Arnold. And then, of course, the tackles on the edges. So to me, those are the 3 critical matchups. The team that wins 2 of those 3 matchups ultimately comes out victorious. And I think we're playing kind of a handicap in terms of the tackle versus the edge matchup. So it makes that Warren, wide receiver matchup all that critical. Feels like SC's got to win both of those matchups. If they can, they can win. If they can't win even one of those matchups, going to be hard to see victory Saturday.
What you got for me, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm all great stuff, and I'll just kind of layer on that. I'm fascinated to see what both Coach Lynn and Coach Riley do in terms of schematically, because Lake McCree did practice this week. Obviously, he's questionable. We don't know for sure. We won't know till Saturday at 10:30 Pacific time if he's going or not. But that would be huge with him back, and you got to expect them doing a lot of 12 personnel with him in there. And he's been instrumental in the passing game too. You can tell he was missing that Minnesota game. And even in the Wisconsin game in that first half. So that would be huge. And it seems necessary with those 2 monsters on the edge with what we've seen from, just our tackle play so far. And if he's not a go, schematically, what do they do to get the ball out of Miller Moss's hands quick? Because as good as Miller Moss has been, I think we're on the same page here. I don't understand the Miller Moss hate that's going around social media. I do not understand that at all.
It's so crazy.
I don't get it. But if there's any critique, there is times where he holds on the ball a bit too long. And that's some of the times he's getting those, balls tipped or getting sacked or whatever. But, he's getting onslaughted all games. You can only do so much. But how do they get the ball out of his hands quick? And how do they expose the tackles by utilizing their strength, which is obviously the interior of the offensive line, and just running between those tackles and not giving the edge guys time to just tee off? And that's kind of the same story every week, right? Let's run the ball 30 times. That's the weakness. So let's not expose that. So interesting to see, but we'll obviously keep everyone posted on Lake McCree's status. The tight end Warren, this is another fascinating one because Gentry he's going to be out. I mean, he's basically, you guys all know he's contemplating redshirting potentially and out indefinitely, which to me means quite some time. So I love Mascarenas Arnold, but him in coverage over this guy would definitely worry me. I'd be curious to see if Anthony Beavers is a guy maybe they use in that spot. Greedy Vance, who's their slot nickel corner, he'd obviously be outsized, but will they say, hey, he's been their best cover corner? Is he a guy that they want to utilize in that situation? So that'd be interesting. And then you mentioned Jacoby Covington, again, practice this week, but questionable per Lincoln Riley today. So if he can't go, DeCarlos Nicholson, John Humphrey on the outside would fill in for him, and even some Prophet Brown. So some newer faces in there, but again, we haven't seen a whole lot of the secondary. So what do we have? But we also haven't seen a lot of Penn State's receivers. So really interesting matchups there. And then the last thing I'll say, this offense, and I'm not saying in terms of necessarily upside, but it reminds me in terms of hype and production of kind of Michigan's offense last year. And I mean that in J.J. McCarthy JJ McCarthy, excuse me, was really seen as this superstar quarterback. And I'm not saying he wasn't good. He was obviously drafted 11th overall by the Minnesota Vikings. I never saw, and we talked about, I think, before, just on a show when we were kind of previewing the championship game, even though SC was in it, I never quite saw like the hype. I think it was more of the ceiling there and playing for Harbaugh and the winning pedigree he had. To me, Drew Aller is real similar. Like he's this really hyped quarterback that I just haven't seen yet. Not saying it's not there. I think he has a really talented arm, and he played as a true freshman last year, which you have to learn a lot. But like, kind of like what you said, Coach, I haven't seen anything jump off yet where I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's going to beat you. Like I haven't seen that. He hasn't really needed to, but they have a really powerful running game. Nicholson didn't play last week against UCLA. Looks like he will play this week against USC. So that's obviously a big get back for them. But it's an interesting offense when you look at it, where it's like, what really are they? And it's like they're hyped at the quarterback, but they're really a smash mouth run team. But Drew Aller gets all the praise. So we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, right. It's really interesting that you mentioned. I love the JJ McCarthy comp. The other comp I'll give, and this is a college comp, is, and we'll sort of appreciate this on LA Football Network, it's Stafford at Georgia. Stafford at Georgia was very similar to Aller at Penn State, where Stafford at Georgia never really sort of put it all together. Like those Georgia teams never really won. They never really did anything. They never played, won in these big games. But everyone was like, Stafford's the next Elway. Stafford's the next Elway. Because you sort of saw it, in spots. Like, oh, this was one NFL throw that he made. Or this was sort of one play. And I think that's where the Penn State fans are sort of like falling in love with him a little bit. Like even Kerry Collins came out yesterday and said, I see it. He's the real deal. Now how much of that is, your own guy, your own school promoting it. But to your point, he's got to be able to put it together on the field. I think what folks are sort of enamored by is just sort of his size. He's got a rocket of an arm, and he's got really nice mechanics. And so, now how consistent is he with those mechanics? How, cerebral is he play over play in terms of reading defenses? How much instinct does he have in terms of feeling the pass rush and, stepping in the right places and regenerating a platform to be able to make plays? We just haven't seen that body of work. So it's going to be really interesting. This is an opportunity for Aller to sort of be the real deal. But yes, he's sort of in that ilk of JJ McCarthy and in the ilk of Matthew Stafford at Georgia, where it's like you see the individual tools, there's the individual ingredients, but you haven't seen the complete cuisine come together.
If Anthony Lucas gets 68 one-on-one, we'll see it. We'll see everything he's able to do. Hopefully 68 on Washington. I'm calling him out. He's gonna be like, who is this dude? And I'm just saying, I don't think I'm with you guys. I just don't see it.
Who's the best Penn State quarterback of all time? Is it Kerry Collins?
Yeah.
Which is
I think so.
Makes SC fans like, oh, we got it good over at SC when you talk about
absolutely. Like that 94 team, remember, they were, it was sort of pre BCS, of course. I mean, that was the year that Nebraska won it all, but Penn State went undefeated that year, won the Rose Bowl, beat Oregon. Coach, you'll enjoy that. I mean, beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
They always lose a big game.
And Kerry Collins and Kijana Carter was the star running back of that team.
Carter, that's right. Oh man, flashback.
Yeah. I guess it is Kerry Collins. That's interesting.
I was trying to think.
That says a lot.
Christian Hackenberg? It's got to be Collins, right?
Yeah. Who's the best quarterback all time that ever went to USC? Mark Sanchez. All right, moving on.
I think it's probably nine better than Kerry Collins. No offense. Love Kerry Collins. But
hey, so adjustments that need to be made, and there's some adjustments that needs to be made. I will say this. I'll just knock both offense and defense out real quick. So defensively, we got to put numbers in the box. Here, I'll just even show it right now. We got to put numbers in the box, and it takes a lot to see. It takes a lot, and it doesn't really help you out when you don't put numbers in the box. So if we look right here, I'm sorry, man, I have to show you this again. But if we look right here, this is a game from last week.
It's so bad with UCLA football right now that we're actually very pleased with this performance. So, show away.
So you get this look right here. UCLA is okay. The only thing is that there's 7 and then it's 7 on 7. There's an extra hat. There's no reason why you don't bring this guy down. You make him number 8. But here's the crazy thing about it. What copycat league, you get the exact same thing. We saw this last week. The problem that we had last week was that you got 4 and 3, you got 7, you got 7 on 7, you got a hat for a hat, right? The only good thing I will say that compares is that for some reason they got this guy playing a zero technique, which is head up on the center. It looks like he's playing like a tight one, and there's a big hole right here. And on this play, this was the first play of the game. They ran it just right here, and he got 6 yards. Coach Lynn is a little bit more sound. Looks like he's running like a 2-eye. He has the 3 technique, but he just does not have the numbers, right? And numbers are everything. And it was kind of a big deal. And when I mentioned it yesterday, if you just go and look, right, that guy blocks that guy. You grab that one. If I get it to work, you grab that one. That guy blocks that guy. That guy goes here.
You got to get you like the Collinsworth.
Yeah.
Seriously.
This guy goes here.
Yeah, we gotta get Coach to.
Or who was it Gruden that was always so big on it? Was that
Gruden? Yeah. Gruden, man.
Guys, hold on. This guy goes here.
I feel like Rye's a John Gruden guy, you know?
I am too. I love Gruden.
Yeah, Gruden's great.
I hate him as a coach because he was the Raiders coach for a while, but then
and this guy goes here. So if you look at that 7 on 7, you got a hat for a hat. Of course, this is a running play, and this is what I was talking about last week in the live, Jamal. And everybody's like, "I'm crazy," but there's a hat for a hat, big on big, hat for a hat. It doesn't even matter. There's one more, and then this is actually the play that came and cut back and broke out. Well, he's still by this guy right here. So what we're going to see is we're going to see that exact same thing coming up this week. You're going to see the exact same play. We actually saw it, so we know how. It never. But
here, Coach, I mean, it's UCLA's got +1 in the box, but you're saying it was still a 6-yard run, right? So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are +1, but the reason why is because it's this right here. It's not sound here. You see that?
Yeah.
Compared to, hold on, I got something for you.
Well, and as you're sort of going through it, Coach.
There you go, right there. Look at that. Boom, pop that out on you. So you see this right here? There's still, this is how they'll line up to it, right? So this right here, this gives your guy a chance. This guy's protected here. This guy's protected here. This guy's protected here. If you go back to UCLA one, there's nobody protecting the dude, and this guy is just going to go second level and get him. They're all protected, but the problem is there's a hat for a hat, so they'll just deuce up and get it. There's no reason for this dude or this dude to be back here. What are they covering? There's nothing for them to cover. There's 3 receivers basically, right? If you want to count these guys as well, they are receivers. I'm not saying they're not receivers, but they're not a super huge threat. You could definitely walk this guy down, bump the box over. Now you got action. You can play one high, which I will put Ramsey down because he's a better tackler, and I'll put him opposite of Cobb. Now you got superior action. You're one of your best tacklers here, and you got your best tackler here. Or if you really want to just make sure Cobb makes a tackle here, you bring him down. Now you got 2 of your best tacklers on the same side. So this is one thing they're protected compared to UCLA, but the one issue that they have is that they don't have enough. There's still a hat for a hat here. If you look on the 7, and it pops out every single time, especially now that they're not even running power. They're just leaning on you running zone in the Big Ten. So they just wait for the cutback, and you figure why Le'Veon Bell is so good. Here's your answer right here. Just walk one of these guys down. Once you walk one of these guys down, it solves all your problem. My suggestion will be Humphreys. My suggestions will be Humphreys to cover the guy that we were talking about earlier, because I think he can cover him, and he's a better cover guy and puts him in a better situation. This is why they lost last week. I don't care all the other stuff you say. This is why they lost. They weren't sound in the box. They weren't sound last week. In my opinion, and my professional opinion, I'm going to say as a doctor, having doing this in game plan, I think this is one of the reasons why they lost. Now, there are some offensive issues and things like that, but there weren't 2 stops. They have to make 2 stops this week. They have to put the numbers in the box. They have to be able to get off the field and stop having these long drives, because it's not helping them out down the road in the game. If I flip over to offense, Penn State gives up a lot of holes. I will say this. Don't be surprised if we see a lot of points from SC, because they give up a lot of holes on their defense because they're a heavy zone defense. They run a lot of fire zone, but they're a heavy zone defense, and they give up a lot of holes, and Lincoln Riley exposes zone defenses. So this may be a good day for Miller Moss, and we may not see a lot of my boy Woody Marks. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan, what do you got? What do we need to see improve on this week to get a W?
I mean, I think I need to add too much to what you said. I think, tackling, obviously. I think last week was the worst tackling day. Jaylin Smith, we've been giving him his roses all season, how fantastic he's been at tackling. I think he had 5 missed tackles in that Minnesota game. Mason Cobb had, I think, 4 missed tackles, has been way better. Moya Ramsey had a couple. I mean, so those were, I'm not giving excuses, but those are critical reasons that they hadn't been doing in previous games that led to Minnesota being able to move the ball so well. So, I mean, you can't do that against Penn State. Obviously, they have a smash mouth mentality, and you got to tackle. So, aside from some of the schematic things you said, I think tackling's the big one. And we saw so much improvement from last year. They had a little bit of a regression last week. So hopefully we'll see a big bounce back. And then I think it's kind of, obviously they don't want to be a 2-loss team, but going into this game, I feel, and we're not doing predictions right now, but it's better that USC is kind of the underdog again. I think coming into the LSU game, there was so much chatter. They're a Pac-12 team. They can't play in the Big Ten. Lincoln Riley still can't play defense. And they can say all they want. They didn't listen to the noise. They didn't hear people saying that. But you lean into that. Like you take that fire, and they went to LSU, and they were fired up for that game, and they came out and won, and they were fired up after that game. And I think the fact that now they've been knocked back down a little bit, losing to a Minnesota, they're an underdog, 4.5-point underdog, I think, which isn't huge, but a home dog. I think that'll lead to some fire, and I think we'll see some of those mistakes hopefully cleaned up. They have to be, because they got to play a clean football game in this game. Again, I don't think they need to dominate in every phase, but they got to play clean or they won't come out on top. So tackling on defense and offense got to play clean. Those are my really 2 big things.
Ryan, are you saying that they don't know how to win yet? That's what it sounds like to me. Madman, what do you got?
No, Coach. I mean, I think you guys laid it out really well. I couldn't agree more with Ryan on the tackling point. I think from a schematic standpoint, sort of what you laid out there in terms of kind of going +1 in the box and then having a 1 high safety, being Ramsey, I think that works. But even in the formation that you showed, the critical matchup there, Coach, is the one-on-one with the receiver on the outside. So it sort of comes back to the ability to win that matchup. This secondary winning that matchup with the Penn State receivers. Because if they lose that matchup, then you can use that pass game to set up the run, vice versa with play action. So the numbers is one thing, but if they're not confident in their movement inside the box, in not knowing where they exactly need to go and can't just play free, then just having that additional number isn't going to be enough. So to me, again, it comes down to sort of those 3 critical matchups. And then the other element to me is, how does Lincoln Riley call this game? Because I think one thing that was lost last week with the loss to Minnesota was the fact that SC had so much success running the ball north-south inside the tackles up until, they had that one run stuff play, right? I mean, Woody Marks was 20 carries, 134 yards, 6.7 yards per carry. They did such a phenomenal job there. So does Lincoln kind of lean more in between the tackles, to Ryan's point? But this is sort of a different Penn State animal. I mean, this is a 4-2-5 defense. They like to stack the box. So he's not just going to be able to sort of pepper in those north-south runs, because as good as Minnesota was on the edge, they had pretty pedestrian linebacker play when you talk about their front 7. So that allowed SC to kind of get more north-south. So I think the runs are going to be the successful 6, 7, 8-yard runs are going to be a little bit fewer and further between. So how does Lincoln Riley call this game? What's going to be the mix between run and throw, and how much conviction is he going to have sticking with the run, even if it's not paying dividends early in the game, to be able to set up that play action and that misdirection later in the game? So to me, in addition to everything we talked about in terms of key matchups, playing clean, turnover free, tackle, professionally, I think it's going to come down to how Lincoln Riley calls this game and really sets this up as a 60-minute slugfest.
To rebuttal the one-on-one matchup, I'll just Richard Sherman that shit, man. I'm playing cover 3. Stay on top of it. Don't let them get over the top.
Yeah, but our corner is good enough, Coach. I don't know if there's a Richard Sherman on this team, right? I mean, so it's easy to say it when you have Richard Sherman. When you don't have Richard Sherman, how do you do it?
Suck. If you can't play cover 3, you're just not good enough. It's not hard to play cover 3 at all. At all. We could put all of our kids out there right now and play cover 3. Don't let them get on top of you. Stay on the shop shoulder. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. It's not that hard. like you know what I mean? That's how Richard Sherman made his money. And he was always critiqued because he couldn't play man. But he sure didn't know how to stay on top and not let anybody get behind him. So that's the safest thing to do. And I don't know.
Let me ask this, because we've seen now the run game beat this team twice. It wasn't obviously Orji, and it wasn't even Bosmer last week, who I thought had some key plays, but they didn't lose because of Bosmer. And yeah, I know he was at the rushing touchdown, but against Penn State, should they basically say, we want Aller to beat us? Like, we'll stack the box all day, like enough losing to the run, enough getting gouged in the run game. Let's force Aller to beat us because we believe our corners are good. We talked all offseason. This is a stacked DB room. They haven't really been challenged. I thought they played really good against LSU. They've, a few plays here and there, but overall they've looked good, but they haven't been challenged a ton. What do you guys think? Should that be the thing? Like, hey, if Aller beats us, touche, well done. But we're done.
The thing after Michigan. Should have been the thing after Michigan. It should have been. They should load the box up and make them beat them up top. The thing about taking a shot is a low success rate of a play, right? If it hits, it hits big. But how often do shots hit, right? And that's what the crazy thing is. We haven't seen Lincoln Riley take very many shots this year. But make them take shots. They have yet to play a quarterback that has the arm or has the ability to take a shot, or a receiver that's more athletic than our secondary. Make them take a shot. Like, I think we play so conservative. We play so scared. And, like, we're playing too high in the Big Ten. Why are we playing too high? Make them put you in too high. We should be, to me, we should be cover one until they take us out of it. Like, there's no reason to be in it. So that's how I feel about it.
Ryan, it's a really interesting point, right? Because this is a different type of Penn State running team, right? Like, Michigan was very similar to Minnesota in the sense you had the big 250, 230-pound back, right? Like Mullings and then Darius Taylor, you pound, and you wear down. What's interesting with Penn State is, Nicholson and Allen, this sort of two-headed monster. First of all, there's two of them, so they're going to be sort of fresher down the stretch. But second, there's more burst to these guys than those other guys. These are guys that are 200, 205, and they can kind of get to the second level. And so particularly when it comes to tackling and tackling angles of that secondary, if you don't get the right tackling angle, these guys can have the ability to run by you. This is almost like this is more Donovan Edwards than it is Mullings. And so to your point, you can kind of get a little bit cute where you say, oh, we're going to take away certain aspects of the passing game and certain aspects of the running game. And in doing so, you're not taking anything away, right? Because these guys can kind of get, once they get downhill and make a cut, they've got the burst to kind of take it all the way. I'm with you. I think that if Aller, someone who hasn't put a whole game together, everyone went crazy over their season opening win against West Virginia. But Aller still only had 215 yards passing in that game, right? It was just a couple deep throws that everyone sort of salivated over. So are you going to make Aller go for 300, 350? And if he does, to your point, hey, great game. And that's the thing that ends our season from a college football playoff perspective. But I think you can sort of live with it. If you see a Nicholson and an Allen both go north of 75 or both go north of 90 with a couple touchdowns, that I think is going to be very difficult to swallow. So I agree with you. I think you got to sort of lean in on, Aller trying to beat you over 4 quarters.
Yeah. Make them beat you in the air. It's not like, next week, I don't think they have a game where a quarterback is a threat for, Nebraska. They got Pat Mahomes Jr.
Yeah, but Raiola's struggling a little bit. Yeah. What's interesting, though, Rai, is that if you stack the box here, they're going to go Wildcat with Warren. They also have like their run package QB as well, where they sort of go Wildcat with. So they're going to go kind of +1, even in the run game, coach, even if you sort of stack the box. So I think there's going to be just a fascinating chess match there. You just got to make a team execute over 12, 13, 14 plays without a mistake from a turnover standpoint, without a critical penalty to set them behind the chains. And if they're able to do that, as Ryan said, more power to them, but make them earn it. And in doing so, you're probably going to find yourself in the game because they're going to make mistakes more often than not.
Which I don't think we have done. I don't think we've made any team earn it. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't made a team earn it. Like, all right, make Orgy beat us. We didn't make Orgy beat us. Make what's the dude's name?
Brosmer.
Brosmer, whatever. Yeah, make him beat us. You know what I mean? Like, these are all insurance salesmen in the future. Like, make them beat us. Like, we're not looking at first round draft picks. Like, make them beat them. Like, that's the frustration. I'm gonna hold that off. I'll hold off until next Monday because I've mentioned this before, and I think it's starting to come out. Like, we're really conservative with our play. We're not aggressive. Like, and it kind of makes us look swagless a little bit. Like, we need to be aggressive and pick up some swag and be able to do this thing. So that's all I have to that. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's get out of here. Let's go enjoy our lives. But we can't end it without Ryan's favorite thing to do. Let's get some score predictions. And Madman, what do you think the score is going to be?
Woo, this is gonna be a white knuckle game. You know, I think it's down to 3.5 at this point. So it sort of tells you how close this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be absolutely a game that comes down to the end. Would not surprise me one bit to see USC come out victorious. Would not surprise me one bit to see Penn State win a close one. I think, to me, ultimately, it's going to come down to the Lake McCree availability. I really do. Because if for me, it's going to be hard to objectively pick USC to win this game without Gentry and McCree, two guys that are just so critical to the strategy of this particular game and this particular matchup. If you don't have Gentry to cover Warren and you don't have McCree to help, with that edge rush, barring, fluky things happening, which is the world of college football. Just go ask Vanderbilt that question. So certainly within the realm of possibility. But if you're looking at it pragmatically and logically, without the McCree availability and without Gentry, hard to see the Trojans win this one. It's going to be a wildly competitive game, but I've got Penn State 24-21.
All right. You said you had Penn State 24-21?
Yes.
This is an SC football show.
Well, I'm going to keep it real. So
go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this. I mean, there's no, I think, evidence or right now that could lead me to choosing SC just based on what we've seen. It's funny the line where it is, whether it's 4.5 or 3.5 now. Josh Pate, who's a college football analyst podcast, he's with CBS. He has this model that he's had for a decade. And I don't know all that goes into it, but obviously it takes into account of a lot of different things. And his model has predicted every USC game correct so far. He picked them losing to Michigan, beating LSU, losing to Minnesota, and his model has USC winning this game. So I don't know what that means. Like, I don't trust things on models and analytics. You got to go play the game. I was coming into the show because I knew we were going to do predictions, and I was going to pick Penn State because I just conceivably, until SC proves they can do the things we've talked about, I can't pick them. But being at home, being backs up against the wall, this is the season, I just feel like they have the quarterback that has proven more so far. Obviously, Aller has the talent, but I think Miller Moss has proven more because of that LSU game, because of the moxie he's shown in the second half of Wisconsin and whatnot. I think they get it done barely. I was going to literally do the same score, Jamal. I'll do 24-20 USC wins. So I'll do a 4-point instead of 3 and SC winning, but should be a great game.
What if I told you this is going to be the first 40-point game against a Power 4 school that SC puts up? What if I told you that?
You always pick the opposite of everything.
yeah. Coach, I mean, I'm
it
still
hasn't
waiting
happened
for
yet,
that 2022 victory bell at 13-10. So
I'm just saying.
It hasn't happened yet, but maybe this is your week.
Maybe this is it. A dead clock is right twice a day. So maybe this is that moment.
All I'm saying is, from what I see, Penn State runs a lot of zone. That's Lincoln Riley's favorite thing to exploit. I can see a lot of points being put up. I can see a 400-yard day from Miller Moss. I can see this final score being SC 42, Penn State 35.
Okay.
High scoring. Okay. I think you double me and Jamal's output.
Yeah. I'm being realistic.
If you're going to go with coach's score.
Yeah. I can see, I see it hidden. I could be wrong. I also said it was going to be a freakish game in the victory bell that day, right? And it wasn't a freakish game. But so
it was freakish, just opposite.
It was high scoring. You said 13-10. The final was 48-45. You still had it as a 3-point game, but
it just felt weird that day. But it is what it is. It always happens. I appreciate you, fellas. I appreciate everybody for watching. If you guys want more coverage on LA football, go to lafbnetwork.com. I got it right today, Jamal. Go check out the Rams. Go check out the Chargers. Go check out the other school across town. And we're starting to sprinkle in a little bit of Dodger coverage. If they don't win Friday, the first article probably is going to be who's going to replace Dave Roberts. But that's
hey, Dodgers are winning Friday. You take that one down right there. That's happening. Dodgers winning it all. Dodgers win Game 5. They're going to win it all.
Let's go.
And we go and the home of future Laker coverage. And if you want to check out fantasy football, go check out our man Ahmed Desai and Tad Desai, the Indian brothers from another mother for fantasy sports.
There we go. I never thought I would see the day where a coach could pronounce an Indian name better than he could pronounce Drew Aller, so that works out nicely.
Man, I just look at numbers. I tell people this all the time. Like, how do you not know their names? I don't care about their names, first of all. Second of all, I just look at numbers. When I'm watching film, I just see numbers. Like, that's all. Anyway. Yeah. So lafbnetwork.com is where you can get all this great information from. We got great stories posted up by these two, Ryan and Jamal, so go check those stories out. I don't write stories. I'm illiterate, so I just hang out with these guys and let them be smarter than me. Definitely. But we got another one in the books, 12:30 game. So Victory Saturday should be on about 4:45, 5 o'clock. Let's move forward. Let's get to 500. Let's ride this thing out.
Well, let's not get to 500. That'd be a loss. Let's get to 4-2.
Oh, 4-2. I thought we were. My bad.
4-2.
Coaches
I'm all over the place.
Out in the universe.
Someone that
right
just
now.
looked at numbers.
Getting to 500. They're 90s UCLA. I don't know, Coach. You're putting stuff out there.
You always do this to me, Jamal. You always do this to me. Last year, you wore UCLA blue. That means UCLA's supposed to win. You always do that
stuff
to me.
Out there.
I'm not. Take it out the universe. I'm gonna go rub some sage.
4-2. We want 4-2.
We want 4-2. We'll be happy on Saturday.
No, what we want is we want 500 in the Big Ten.
That works. There we go.
That's
So I was
meant.
right. There we go. Nice recovery. Good job, Jamal. There you go.
Yes, nice.
There you go. 500 in the Big Ten. We'll see you guys live on Saturday after the game. Ryan's probably gonna be at a party. That's a partying man.
That's it, man.
You're
Ryan
the most busiest
till
weekend
4 a.m.
dude I've
coming
ever.
Back.
Yeah, you're the most busiest weekend dude I've ever met in my life.
Busy.
Without a doubt. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for joining. You guys know how it is. Live free, fight on.